that ain't for us folks in the country. We look after our own problems.
There you go. Thank you.
You can restart now.
All right. That was good on your recording there, wasn't it, Glenn? Okay. What I was talking about is sometimes God speaks and you don't hear him. And I've probably the world's worst. Round two. Good. I'm gonna try to get you out of here by 7:30.
Tomorrow night.
Maybe AM. I really cook better breakfast than I do dinner anyway. So.
Contact Chapel Hill PD if you have any information regarding this
Maybe that one clear. Must have been a different carrier. About half of them went off the first time, half of them second time. Well, but anyway, I want to tell you in a roundabout way what God's trying to tell me, and I've been really hard-headed and I wouldn't listen, but I'll get to that just a little bit. My buddy Glenn had an idea that we're going to try. Last month, I gave everybody a corn seed. That was my idea, and I kind of thought that was a good one, but carry that around in your pocket as just a memory when you reach in at night and put your change down, or when you go to pay, you see that corn seed and you go, I got to go to men's fellowship next Monday night. So I thought that helped. I've had a couple people, it was kind of funny, but they seem to think just anything to help us remind us. So that's what Glenn is working on here. And Glenn's one of my best friends, and there's one thing about Glenn, when he starts something, he'll make something happen. He's a go-getter. And if you're going to have a team, you want Glenn on your team. So I liked his idea, but I didn't like his idea. So he knows, me and him's talked about it. He told me to shut up because I was the only one thought that way. Glenn wants to call it the Joe Show. I've had this out for a week or two sitting around here. Some of you might have a card that we've handed out. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Good idea. I mean, the back of the card's got all the dates for the whole year. There's some sitting on the table there. I'll get the top off the box when you leave. If you don't have one, grab one. If you know somebody that you'd like to invite, grab 2 or 3. If we run out of cards, we'll get more cards. Anything to remind people to come to the men's fellowship, I think is a big deal. I just was, a little bit skeptical about calling it a Joe Show because of the pride thing. This ain't my show. This is our men's life group, men's fellowship. And I was really skeptical that I might step on somebody's toes, hurt somebody's feelings. As well, if you want to call it a Joe Show, you just have your show and I'll go on about my business. But I don't think anybody here will do that. Glenn said there wasn't. He said, I'm the only one that had that problem, or only one thought that way.
If anybody don't like, they take it up with me, it ain't your fault.
So Glenn said I was the only one felt that way, so I didn't believe him. I went and asked Wesley. Wesley said I was the only one felt that way.
What in the world?
So I didn't believe Wesley, so I went and asked the Lord, and me and the Lord got in a pretty good argument. I sat in the middle of Sampson County at a stop sign about 6:15 one morning, probably for 10 or 12 minutes, and didn't move. No traffic on the road, so I had time and just sat there. Long story short, Clay does a Wednesday night, and we call it Clay's class. That kind of helps me call this the Joe Show. If it helps, fine. But it's Clay's class. It's a small group. We have a discussion class. It's really, really good. Wednesday night, if you don't want to go to the big church, we call it, you come to Clay's class, and we learn more. We talk amongst ourselves. It's really good. We're studying Revelation, which is a very confusing book for most people, including me. We're talking about the 7 churches, the letters to the 7 churches, and we were on the church of Thyatira. And so that I can have something intelligent to say, I will listen to David Jeremiah, Robert Morris, T.D. Jakes, somebody else that's more studied than me, because I don't take time to read it. I just hear their opinions, and I gather that from 3 or 4 different pastors. So I was listening to Robert Morris, and he was talking about the church of Thyatira. That's the church we were studying. And it came down to everything's good, but I have a few things against you. You've let that woman, Jezebel, a self-proclaimed, who calls herself a prophet. And that's what stuck in my mind. That's what I'm trying to say here is I am the Joe Show and I am the big, and then he said, somebody is listening to this that needs to hear it. Mm. Jezebel was a self-proclaimed prophet. She said she was a prophet. And God just pretty well told me, you didn't name this to Joe Show, Glenn did. And I had Glenn's a growing Christian, young, been coming to church 2 or 3 years, and he has really helped our church. He is the Wednesday night service when he's here. And he drives 2 hours to come help cook. He drives 2 hours to church. He lives in Steve's Ferry. He wears his butt out in a truck out to come here to church. We appreciate that. But I argued with God for 5 or 10 minutes there about that, and he kind of got me over that hump. He said, I've had Glenn do that for you. Believe it or not, I had my daughter-in-law who works for me. I've got this stuff laid out on my desk, in my desk somewhere, the back of this card with the dates. I've had it for 3 years. I've never took time to put it to work. You know, God said, look, you wouldn't do it. I had Glenn do it and get over it. I said, well, okay, but I'm still, he said, I put you in that position to lead that group of men because men are important to the church. And men don't think they're important to the church. And men will listen to other men, not necessarily the preacher or the deacon, but just any redneck from the crowd has more merit, more meaning to most men. And they'll listen to you. Wesley asked me to do that. I said, you didn't call me. Wesley asked me to do it. He told me to do it one night about 7 years ago. I only had to do it one night. On which one night that was. We've done a mini one. I don't know how many years we've done this, but it has grown and grown into what it is. And we are going to try to make it even bigger and better using some of these ideas. But I still had that problem. And I said, God, I told you when you called me, so-called, Wesley asked me, I couldn't speak in front of people. I don't speak well in front of people. If it's something meaningful, I get emotional and I can't talk. I got a napkin tonight, but I've had eye surgery, so I'm not crying yet, not before tonight's out. But I just can't talk. I said, and this is when I really got in trouble. I said, your Bible says Moses had a speech problem, and he couldn't talk. Well, if you're going to argue with God, don't quote the Bible. I learned that. That was a pretty good lesson. God said, my Bible don't say that. My Bible said Moses had a speech problem. My Bible said, who made God's mouth but I? I made Moses' mouth. I made your mouth. I put you in that spot. And again, I've not heard audible voices, but this was as plain as I could tell you. It's just kind of worked out to where, okay, I'm good with that. But Johnny Hockaday and I did pro staffing for, when I was supposedly not able to speak in front of people, but I could talk about fishing. I mean, that's what I did. I'd go to Bass Pro Shop, get up on that big glass tank full of fish, and I'd cast a rod in there a few times, talk about the reel, the gear ratios, the drag settings, whatever. And when I walked down, he'd be at a table up there at the front, and there'd be a line of people at the table to buy whatever rod and reel I had up there. I don't get it, but that's the way that stuff works. If we can have that effect on men that'll come to hear us speak, eat, fellowship, it might not be what I say, it might be what the book says to somebody. Somebody else just talking amongst yourself. When I'm up here getting things ready to go, it's just a kind of a roar out here of people carrying on conversation. All of it's positive, all of it's good. That's what we need. And we do it to draw men to church. And I've had skeptics say, look, men don't get saved just because they go to church. They ain't coming to church just because they come to the men's life group. I understand all that. But I got to feel like there's a better chance of you finding the Lord at church than at the shop or at the golf course or in the fishing boat, where you're around other people that are serving God. I think this is the best place to find it. Robert Morris tells the story. He was into drugs and alcohol before he got saved, and he got saved in a motel room. He wasn't at church. It can happen. I think it's more likely to happen in a church setting, but it can happen anywhere. God's not confined to one room or one building. So what we're going to try to do, we're going to call it a Joe show. That's what we're going to do. I have kind of got over it. I've been told by 3 good friends, one of them being the Lord, that is what we're going to do. We got the dates, so if you don't have a card, please grab a card, grab 2 or 3. If you got people that you'll invite and send, we'll set more chairs. We did tonight, we'll do the next month. We're also going to try to tie something themed around what we're doing. For example, last we did a wild game dinner, had a good crowd, had good food, good fellowship, something a little bit different. I gave the corn seed to remind people. There's a lady at church yesterday walked up to me. She said, "Can I share a little Jesus with you?" I said, "Sure." She gave me a little Jesus. I'm going to keep that in my pocket with my corn seed and my license plate bolts for a while in case I need to share a little Jesus with somebody. It's just an idea, and it's something that might break the ice to give you a chance to talk to people. Wasn't going to tell you this, but I was in the food line. I've told several of you this story, and this guy was looking at me kind of hard, and he's kind of a big fellow, and I thought, he looks familiar, but I don't know him. And I went on and got what I needed, and he's standing up there near the restaurant. Come back out, he just sitting there. I walked by him. I said, "How are you?" He said, "Good. How are you?" I said, "All right." He said, "Where I know you from?" I said, "I don't know, but you look familiar." I said, "Dorman GMC maybe?" He said, "Where's that?" I said, "Well, it won't there." And we talked another minute, and I said, "I got it. I know where it was." I said, "Food line." He said, "We had the food line today." I said, "Were you here last Sunday?" He said, "You give me that corn seed." He said his wife asked him 3 times, what are you doing? Why don't you throw that corn seed away? He said, "I'm going to go to that boy's church." He gave me a corn seed, and that day we were standing there talking. He said, I won't bring a buddy." Well, I had some more. I reached in my pocket. I did give him a corn seed, tell him to come to church. So little things like that stick in people's minds. So we're going to, hopefully these cards, we will probably do, I got a devotion prepared, but it's got to do with men and fathers that I'm going to do either May, just before Father's Day, or the end of June after Father's Day. I think May, because I would really like to do it prior to. So we might do something in April for Mother's Day if I can find something worthy to say about the ladies, because that's going to be tough. And like for Father's Day last year, we did a pancake supper. I want the kids to come. I want your dads to come. From 2-year-old to 102, they can eat pancakes and sausage. So we'll probably do that. Mark's nodding his head. He'll wash the dishes. And July 4th, we might do hot dogs, hamburgers, and do something for bicentennial. But I don't think we'll have fireworks, so don't expect that. It just takes a little effort, a little idea. If you got an idea, Glenn had a really good idea. I argued with him a while, but he won. We're going to do this thing, and we're going to work hard at it and keep inviting. But the last thing I want to share with you is some statistics. Wesley did a series on men and how important they were at church. It's been several years ago, but I remember a lot of his points. And I went back and dug some of this stuff up. In a family setting, when the mom goes to church, just about 50% of the time, the entire family will go to church with her. But in the same situation, if the father goes to church, it's nearly 90% of the time the entire family will go. That's how important it is to be a role model, to be a mentor for the kids, your kids, your nieces, nephews, your little baseball teams that you coach, soccer, whatever. People are looking at you as a role model, and if we don't have to wear a shirt that says Christian or a hat, it's all good and well, but people should recognize what you are by your actions and what you do. So that's our goal, and our goal is to draw more men to God. Do it through a men's fellowship, do it through a gospel sing on a Sunday afternoon. You know, we would like to, we've talked about for 2 or 3 years doing a little bluegrass thing, but the COVID hit and we're getting that behind us now. So maybe this fall, when it cools off a little bit after summer, we can do something like that, not pertaining to men, but for the church. But just ideas like that. I appreciate you coming. I see faces here that's here every month in, month out, but bring a friend. A lot of you have this time. I see new faces that I hadn't seen before. But I appreciate you putting up with me, and Captain, thank you for cooking. He gave a whole Sunday afternoon that he could have napped and done all kinds of things.
Still nap.
Not while he was here, he did. That boy was stirring. Yeah. All right, anybody got anything they'd like to say or add, or?
Well, my name is Harold Bass Jr. and I live in Dunn, and my dad was on the city council for a long time. He's also was on the fire department. And I've been in Dunn since 1974. But I was born in Florida, and I used to go to the bowling alley, but my attitude got in the way. So I stay away from the bowling alley. And I see everybody in Dunn. I come to Irvin once in a while. I come to church here yesterday on my bicycle and roll back to Dunn. And I'm 64 years old. And you guys are probably a lot older than I am, or probably a lot younger than I am. But I'm just here to bring the light, because God is the light. And so I see Joy Dorman every once in a while at the dealership, and I make my rounds and done. And I'm just here to be, to see what you guys do and all that. And I go to Boy Deacon's house every second Tuesday every month because he has men's fellowship.
I got to church about 8:15 yesterday morning because we try to practice at 8:30, and Harold was here. Bicycle parked out there, and I thought, I wonder if that's Harold's bicycle. At 8:15, Harold was already at church, and he rode a bicycle up here. And it's a pretty good ride. It's probably 6 or 8 miles to his house. I picked him up tonight, brought him. I'm going to take him back home when he gets the dishes washed. How about prayer requests? Our keyboard and kind of assistant pastor here is back home. Randy's had a little tough go, but he's doing better, I understand. Yes, sir.
I don't know if I'm out of order or not. But,
you're not out of order. You can't get out of order with this crap.
Well, this has been on my mind for a while, and I wanted to tell the men at my men's fellowship at church. Some of you guys know me and know that I just lost my daughter just a few weeks ago at one of the museums here in Dunn. And I had to watch her struggle through those last few days. And I talked with God about that, and I said, Lord, I don't understand this struggle. And it was a hard struggle to watch and go through it. And it came to me that God said, I struggle for you. And it put everything in perspective for me about what happened. And I just, I just want to share with all of you, sometimes we have to go through things, sometimes it's going to take us really down low. But we've got somebody that's already washed away all those sins, and he's taking care of us up there. And it just gives me a lot of faith today to know that I can stand in front of a group of men that I don't know and say I love God and I appreciate the things that He's done for me.
Amen. Certainly not out of line. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Amen.